And welcome to my personal YouTube channel. So sorry if my onboard mic doesn't sound really good, and there might be some noise in the background. Well, that's something to be expected because currently I don't have the budget in order to buy myself a decent mic. So I hope you can stick with me on this. And so in this video, I'm going to show you how you can use Prisma with Rust. And so if you already know about Prisma, it is an ORM for Node.js and TypeScript. Well, these are TypeScript is currently a first class support for Prisma, but that doesn't mean that it only supports TypeScript. There are a lot of other programming languages that supports Prisma Client, such as Golang, Python, and here in this case, I'm going to show you that there is Rust as well. So if you really like programming in Rust, and then you also like something that is much more different than the current situation of libraries, that currently we only have Diesel for SeaQL, and we also have SeaQL also for SQL database, and we also have ODM such as Wither library. But when it comes to using something as Prisma, if you are someone who really don't want to work with SQL directly, then I think Prisma is sort of like a good choice here. And luckily there is a Rust library for that, and it is called Prisma Client Rust. So here is its GitHub link, and here you can see that it is a really lovely library. It has 1.2k stars. And then it has an example folder where you can see some of the examples, such as working with a backend library such as Axum. So here is an example about Axum REST API. So here is its example then. But here in this video, I'm just going to cover only about the installation instructions here. I will link this library link in the description, also with the prisma.brendonovich.dev. So here is, well, this is actually the link and the website name here is actually the author's name himself. All right, so here, if I have to explain this very simply, there are two options that you can go with this library. That is, you can use it inside of your crate, which is it lives with parallel to your crate, and it lives with the same main function with whatever application that you are trying to program. So you would normally put this on top, but then it has some problems, such as it is included as a dependency on your crate, which is not really desirable. And then if your main crate has some errors during compilation, then you can't generate the client, since the CLI is also failed to compile. Cool. So there is another reliable method called working using the Prisma CLI as a separate crate, or in this case, it works as like a workspace crate. And here in this video, I'm going to show you the recommended way. All right, so in order to get started, I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it as Prisma with Rust, maybe something like that. There you go. All right, so I'm going to get into this folder. I'm going to open this folder with Visual Studio Code. If you want to get these three options, then there is actually a really convenient app called Open in Terminal. So it looks like this. So this guy is actually free and open source. It's actually on GitHub. So it's really convenient for you to just right click on this and then press on Visual Studio Code. And so So in order to, as always, in order to start, a new Rust project within a folder that you're currently standing, you type in cargo init like this, and then you would get your project. Cool. So now if I go into the main function, Rust analyzer will run, and then it generates a target folder, and then my LSP is now working correctly. Right. So cool. So now here as a workspace crate, we should create another separate crate for a CLI called Prisma CLI, but it should be whatever name that you could think of. But by convention, I would like to create that Prisma CLI crate too. So I would go for cargo new, then Prisma CLI, press enter, and then you would create a new Prisma CLI guy here. Okay, so if I go into the main function, you can see that my print line here is actually green. So it is, my LSP is more like, this guy doesn't belong to the main crate. So that's why, the LSP or like the Rust analyzer cannot see it. So there's actually a notification that says this Rust file does not belong to a loaded cargo project. Well, and in this case, I'm going to ignore that because we're going to include it right away. So in order to include it, you would create a workspace, then you would add one member called Prisma CLI, and then you should also add resolver 2 here because it is the author also states it here that within your workspace tag here are your other workspace stuff, and then you put in resolver 2. So for Prisma Client Rust, in order to compile properly, you need to instruct cargo to use version 2 of the feature resolver. Alright, so with that out of the way, if I go into this this main function here, wait for a while, and then you can see my LSP is now working correctly, and then I now get some hover suggestion features now. Okay, so the next step here is that if you go up to this part here in this section inside your crate, and then you see that there are actually two links. One is Prisma Client Rust, and then Prisma Client Rust CLI. Well, here in this case, you need to copy the bottom link, which it has named as Prisma Client CLI. Well, I mean, actually, these two links are pretty much identical. You can name them whatever you want. You can call the upper part is like Prisma Rust, and then the down here as Prisma Client Rust CLI. Whatever you might want to. So now you would add this into the dependencies, and then you will wait for these two guys in order to initialize the Prisma CLI project. But in the meantime, we should do something else. So on the root level cargo.toml file, you should add in the upper dependency line here, and then you paste it here. And also here in the instructions, the author also says that you should add Surday into your mix, but I'm pretty much going to use Surday anyway. So I'm going to go to crates.io, and then I'm going to search for Surday, press enter, and then there you go. You have Surday version 1.0.164. Cool. Let's copy that, and I'm going to paste it here. So with Surday, I also want to add some features such as derive. Yes. If you're currently wondering what sort of AI code suggestion that I'm currently using, there is a really lovely AI that is free, and it is using GPT-4. It is called Codium. But Codium here is that you would write the entire word code and then IUM there. Okay, so with these two out of the way, you can clearly see that, okay, so Rust Analyzer says that, okay, everything's fine. And now for the final part is that you can create a new file called or like a new config.toml file inside of a .cargo file. So we need to do that now. So we have a .cargo /config.toml, and then there you go. You got a config.toml file there. Okay, so now the author says that you should copy this line, you paste it here, and now it says .run-p Prisma client Prisma crate name. So you replace this with Prisma CLI like this, and then save. And now if you do a cargo build, it should take a long while because it has a lot of dependencies. So the reason for this this config.toml file, then you would paste this alias here, is that you can run you can run cargo Prisma, and then you would essentially get Prisma inside of your Rust code. Alright, so with this, alright, so I'm going to wait for it for a while, just for the entire project to finish building. Okay, so there is another last thing that I want to add, is that here in this part we currently only have print line hello world. Here in this case it should be Prisma Client Rust CLI, and then you can call .run like this. Well, for example, for whatever reason, my my LSP is currently having some problem again. But if you now can call cargo Prisma, and then that's just help. And now it also trying to build again, because we are now building the inner crate now. So after this building process complete, you should get an output from Prisma, just like how normally Prisma works on TypeScript. So you would get the same result here. So there you go. So here you can see its output. Wait, hold on, let me pull this up. Okay, you can see that Prisma is a modern DB toolkit for query, and then you can list all of sort of like the command that you can use. So in order to create a new Prisma project, you would write in cargo Prisma, and then init. And what this does is that, well, it actually initializes a Prisma folder, and then it creates a schema.prisma folder here. So here in this case, if you already have a schema.prisma file from one of your Prisma project, then you can pretty much just copy paste here. But we're going to have to change these client and then these DB here, just to make it work with our Rust code. All right, so with that, we should be on the next page of this documentation. And so if you move on to the setup, you should see that here in this case we should change some fields on the generator client here. All right, so you need to change these two things. You change the provider, and you will write it as cargo Prisma, so you should do that now. So provider should be cargo Prisma, and then we should have the output as source prisma.rs. So we should have something or no, output, yeah, and then it should be /source prisma.rs. So what this does is that after this Prisma file gets generated, then it would generate a prisma.rs file in the same directory with this main function, with this main file here. So now you're done with your Prisma CLI for now. All right, so let's just spin up our own database. So if you're currently already having your own Postgres database, then that's really nice. But currently I don't have it right now. But currently I do have a Docker installed here. So So I might have to. So currently I do have Docker installed on my machine, but not PostgreSQL. So I would need to create a. I'm going to create it at the root directory. I'm going to call it Docker compose .yaml, and then I'm going to paste in my pre-configured settings. I'm not going to do any volumes here, but okay, so I might change this port to 543 and 2. So if you already know how to use Docker Compose, then I don't think this will going to be a problem. But here, if you already don't know, then what we're going to do is we're going to need so this entire Docker Compose stack. We are going to create a Postgres container. We're going to make it a user as root. We're going to use the image as the latest Postgres image, and then we're going to load some environment variables such as Postgres user as local, Postgres password as password, and then Postgres DB as local. So this entire thing is pretty much works locally on your machine, and of course I'm not going to hide any of this anyway. So I'm going to show you my entire .env file right in front of YouTube right now. So here you can put in root, and then or more like local, and then it should be password localhost 5432, and at this section we're going to do a local here, so we can save that, and then let's just try to interact with Prisma a little bit. So with that out of the way, let's just think about what should we are going to try to build today. So I'm currently thinking about let's just say that I want a model user like this, and currently it is screaming at me because I don't have a primary key or like an ID associated to it. So I now have to do something. I now need an ID, so I can do ID type string. It should be default of UID, and then I should also add another tag called ID. And now it does not it does not scream any error at me. So there are two extra fields that it is pretty much the same if you already works with MongoDB, and it also works with Prisma as well. That is created at, which is of type datetime, and it should be a default of now, and another field called updated at, which is also datetime, and then it should be a default of or they do have a separate tag for updated at. Alright, so let's just add our own very custom field. I want to have a username which is of type string. Do I need a default? Well, I don't think I ever going to need a default. I should also have something like an email string. I also have some password, also of string. I might want to have something as like a role, so I can go for enum role, and then it should have user or admin, something like that. But do note that well, you can use all caps locks if you want, but then if you are going to if you generate this with your if this schema gets generated to a Rust code, then you would have to deal with enum that has property fields as full caps lock like this, or like even if you try to convert it into a string, then it also full caps locks, or in this case it is two uppercase. But normally I would really like it to be more like just this this upper guy, the first guy to be the first character to be uppercase. So now you can use your role here, which is of type role, and you can set a default as well, which I want it to be a user. Okay, but I'm not going to install Axum and then work on this. Well, this is pretty much just like a very short demo of how you can use Prisma with Rust. So now I'm going to move on to, let's just do something, let's just say that user wants to have, user can post some blog, for example. So here I would think about, let's just make a blog model, right? A model block, and then I should also add a string ID default UID. Cool. And so in order to to do like a one-to-many relationship, so normally in this case I want that one user can have multiple posts, right? Well, in this case, one user can write multiple blocks. So here you could have something that it is called owner ID. It is of type user, and then you can add in some relationship such as you can have a fields of, well, in this case I'm going to name it as owner, and then I can write this as owner, and then I'm going to references what section ID, and then I'm going to put in why does it on delete cascade. There you go. Currently it is screaming that about this owner field. Well, this should be owner ID, because I will create something. I will create a field called owner ID, and which is a string. All right, and so if I if I do a command Z here, you should see that it is currently screaming at me at some sort of error. So it says that, okay, so currently the relationship between these two that this guy references this guy, but this guy does not have any references back to this guy. So if I press on save, you should see that there is a block array here, in which I can put it there. You can actually rename it as blocks like this. So this is how you can do a one-to-many relationship, where a user here can have multiple blocks, and this one block can only owned by one user. And okay, so you might be wondering, okay, so if I query this user, will this entire blocks are going to be queried as well? And the answer is no. This field actually does exist in your in your model within your Rust code, but it does not but if you query your user normally, then this blocks won't going to generate as with your query, unless you told Prisma in order to include them inside of the user model. Okay, so I should also add these two fields as well. I'm going to copy paste it. Also, I should have something like a title of string and a description of string. Cool. So now I want to have some comments, right? So I would love to have multiple comments within a block, and that one and that one comment can exist on one block. So I can go for model comments comment this ID field, and then I would want to have one owner for this guy. So one owner can or maybe this comment is owned by one user, and it should be exist on one block. So I can have owner, type user, relation, it should be the same, owner ID, references ID, on delete cascade. What this means is that what this means is that if the user gets deleted, then the entire list of his blogs and his comments will going to be deleted as well. So here it is really conveniently that I also do have a comments list, so that I can list out what comment that I have posted on which time, and then you can have the information here. But also, since this comment since this user owns this comment, we should also reference to the block model, because let's just go for the block that this comment lives in. Relation fields block ID references ID on cascade on delete cascade. Sorry. So now I can have a block ID of string, and if I press save, there we have another comment here. So I can name this as comments. And so now you can wondering, okay, so how about many-to-many relationship? Then how would you actually do this? How would you actually use Prisma to work with this? Well, so Prisma actually does have a really convenient way in order to for you to model many-to-many relationship, that you don't have to create a link table by hand, but rather Prisma creates a link table for you. So here you can say that okay, I want multiple users to work on I want multiple users to work on this block as well. Sort of like multiple owners to one block, and then they can change anything. So in this case, you can change this to owners, and you can have a user of type array. Why this does not scream is that because here we have a block array and here we have an owners array. So so under the hood, Prisma will create for you a link table called user block, and then it will have two fields such as user ID and then block ID. So all sorts of those good stuff about automating the part where you have to do many relationship, and it has been dealt here. But I don't want that. I want one user can own multiple blocks, and then one block can only have one owner. All right, so cool. So since well, it seems like we have a really awesome, or more like a very simple example to work with here. Well, let's just test this with our Prisma client. So in order to do that, now we need to write cargo Prisma generate, and we press enter. So with that, you now have a generated Prisma client Rust to source Prisma. And then if I click here, so this is like a really long file. Like it is it auto generates, and it has 4,000 lines in length. But this is automatically generated, so you should not manipulate with this. And also, since you can actually see my entire path here, well, not that it is important or anything, because I'm currently creating this out of my desktop. But this should be within your git ignore file. So here in your git ignore file, you should ignore your .env, and you should ignore your prisma.rs file, or more like it is currently being in /source/prisma.rs. So cool. Now here we have in our main function. So now since Prisma here, it is since as you already know that each file within your Rust project is actually a model. It's actually a module, so you have to declare the module here. So you have mod Prisma here, and then if you save, you should wait for a while, and then you can see that we have 621 warnings, and it is all coming from this guy here. So in order to silence this, you can actually do this by allow warnings, and then every warning will go away. But this only applies a warning silence to only the Prisma guy here, because if you already know that if I say hello goes to hello here, it still gives me a warning here. So this warning is not globally, so you don't have to worry about that. Okay, so in order to generate the schema to your database. All right, so I might have to connect to my PostgreSQL database here. All right, so it seems like I already have this app currently running. Your table is refreshed and it seems like it is connected successfully. Well, I mean, I've already set this up already, so you know. So I have this lovely app called archetype, and I honestly don't know why it is going out of support, but in my opinion, I think this is, you know, a really nice app. I don't have their GitHub link actually, but if I have, you know, a link that I can provide to you, then yeah, I will provide in the description below. All right, so in order to generate or more like, you know, push this schema to the database, you would call a command called cargo prisma push or like db push, and wait for it. And now database is now in sync with your Prisma schema. And then here, if you go to archetype, you refresh, and then there you go. You have a block, you have a comment, and you have a user. All right, so you should see there is no link table here because, you know, we do not have, you know, many examples here. So, you know, so this is pretty much, you know, a very basic you know, model that Prisma generates for us. All right, so now how you can, all right, so how do I, you know, interact with my Prisma code at this point? Well, first you need to actually have you know, an async runtime installed, or it should be added to the dependencies, because when you create, or you know, I should give you an example here. That is, if I run if I create a new client called collect client equals to Prisma client, so there are two, alright, so there are two guys here. The bottom guy is actually a trait, and it comes from our Prisma CLI here. So the upper part is actually the concrete struct. So with that, and then I should go for underscore builder, build, and then unwrap. Well, I should not do an unwrap, but if I call .build, you can see that there is an impl future, which means that you need to await this. So in order to enable async, to enable our main function to be async, we should add in our async runtime. In this case, I'm going to use Tokyo, and then I should add it over here. Note that in order to, you know, to get the main macro to run, you should add two features that are macros and RT multi-thread. And I save this. Wait for, you know, REST analyzer to build. So it should be relatively quick. All right, so I should add a Tokyo, and then main like this, and then here I should add async, and then there you go. We should have an async function main. Why is it giving me some error? Well, I guess, okay, so that's my LSP having problems there. Okay, so now we can call a .await, in which it returns back for us a result or a new client error. So in order to deal with this, I would need another crate. It would be this error. I like this crate a lot. It does a lot of the things I like. Okay, so the normal convention to, you know, error handling with you know, with that library, I would have something. I would have a file called error.rs. I would add it to the main function. So if you don't know how I just did that, so normally in Visual Studio Code, if you create a new file, and then, you know, since files in Rust are pretty much just modules all the way, so if you see that there is, you know, these three dots here, if you hover over here, then you can, you know, press in command dot. Here I'm using it on my Mac, but on your machine you might be using Windows, so it could be control dot, I don't remember. But if I press on command dot, and then you can see that I can choose if I want to, you know, add this module as, you know, mod module, or I want to mod error, but with public access. But normally, in this application, I'm going to let it be mod error. So cool. Let's just create our own error. So I will have pub enum error, and then I should go for a derived debug, and then an error. In this case I need to import it, which is at oh wait, sorry, I forgot to import it to the dependencies. So with that, this error, there you go. And if I now have to wait for it to build, and then I will be able to pick it from the import list. So with that, it says there's no code actions. What do you mean? Well, I mean, I might have to import it by myself. At this point, my LSP is pretty much having some issues here. All right, so now you have you have your own error enum now. So here in this case, I'm going to return something as a result, nothing, and then our create error. Okay, so now if I do a question mark operator, it shall gives me oh, okay, I should put in the ending. Okay, so it shall give me an error here. And so here in this case, here in this case you see that there is a lot of things to look at, but what it says that your error enum does not support handling this new client error here. So this is something that we have to handle, but this new client error here is actually an error that comes from Prisma Client itself. So I have an error. Database error. Thank you. So now I can have database error, and I would get it from is it Prisma error, or is it a new client, or maybe I'm not going to handle this. The reason why I don't want to handle that is because this build guy is actually one of the core parts in order to get our application to run. So it should be do an expect that is cannot connect to Postgres, or cannot connect to database. So the reason why I'm using expect here instead of trying to to propagate the error up to the error enum, that is, I want this to fail. So if the Prisma client does not generate correctly, then we should just crash our application, because that is expected. We should crash our application if the connection to the database is not successful. Well, especially on the very first part of the application. Okay, so cool. Since you already have this client here, now let's just do some things with our database. So if you go into the docs, then everything is pretty much just really easy to use. So you can go for find queries, and then you can see that here you can have a post, and then you can call client .post .find many .exec .await and .unwrap. So everything pretty much just starts with this client. So pretty much you start with this client, and then you call a post, and here in this case, since so in our case it would be a .user and .block and then .comment, and then you can go for a find many, which finds everything that it could see for whatever things that it matches. Find first means that for whatever how much result that it returns, it will always return the first one. And find unique pretty much just takes whatever unique, something unique like ID in order to search. So here you can see that there are some differences. Find menu actually returns you back a vec, Meanwhile, find first and find unique returns back for you an option, which is really nice, which is actually something that I really want. And so we can do filtering on relation, but we're going to do relation later. All right. So in order to create a new user onto our database, then I would write something as let, or maybe I can go for a client dot user. You can see that we do have some suggestions here. Now we have dot user, and then we can go for dot create. And so here you can see that we have create many, create many, and create unchecked. I'm not going to do something with create unchecked now, because create unchecked is sort of like a very different thing to use for some complex situations. You will going to need create unchecked. You should only use create unchecked only if using these two first guide does not work, due to you need to do some complex things, really like relationship to multiple database, because with this Prisma Client Rust, you can actually create this new user, and then within this code, you can actually do other actions alongside. So you can create two things within one query, or the least I could say, one query in terms of Rust code, and not that one query in terms of SeaQL. Because what Prisma does is that, besides the fact that it creates for you a really nice abstraction over a lot of the things that you have to do manually on comparing to writing actual SeaQL. If you have to compare the speed of using Prisma against traditional database, then of course Prisma will not going to be as fast, and it will going to be it's not going to be performant in it's not going to be performant in general. So if speed is your concern, then I don't really think that Prisma is a good choice, but we're going to but sorry, I'm going out of scope here. So let's just try to create a new user into our database. So now you can see now we have these fields here auto generated. Well, let's just create something for ourselves. I'm going to use my nickname, which is Wonder, and I should go for .into. The reason why I picked .into because this create function here, it accepts a string, and here we have this Wonder here is a ref stir, and ref stir does implements from, or more like ref stir does implement into. So it already implements ref stir into string. So you can call .into here, and it will be going to be fine. So now with email, I'm going to go for a@a.com, also .into. I would generate some password, which is secret.into, and then there are some params, and here you can see that if you hover over this create guy here, it says that it needs some vec param, and it is specifically vec of set params. And so what are these set params? Well, if I go into the code, and you can see that we have a set param here, which coming from the user itself here. So how do you generate this set param, and how do you generate this set param in general? So I will going to generate, and now I'm going to explain that in the later part. All right, so I can go for a .exec. So .exec here actually gives us a future. So I can go for let new user equals to .exec, and it gives us an input future of a result of new user or an error. If I hover over this, you can clearly see that, well, it is currently saving types as model types data, but be with me that this is the user, this is the actual user, the new user that you have just created, and then it gives us back a query error. And so with this query error, we should handle this query error here. So with that, since this is an input feature, let's just await it, and then now we have a result. And then now if I put in a question mark, then I should get back a data. And so what is this data? So this data is actually our entire our entire user model now. So when you're using something like Prisma Client Rust, you don't have to create like an actual user model anymore. So normally when you are working with when you're working with a lot of databases, you would normally create sort of like domain model in order to map it against your database. But here in this case, this library actually generates the type for you, and so you don't have to do that anymore. But I'm going to show you how you can still create a user model type without actually ever going to write the entire full model again. So here in this case, we are going to have some error, and it says that you haven't handled query error in your error enum. All right, so here I can go in here, and I can go for error. I can go for a simple query error, and it should be of query, and it should comes from query error, like this. Well, here in this case, I'm going to do a simple handle like this, but in order to to gradually handle this, I'm going to show you in the later parts of this video. Okay, so cool. So now you have this new user, and then in order to know what our user is going to look like, if I press on here, and here you can see that very conveniently that this data actually implements debug, in which you can print it with print line. It also supports clone, so you can clone it, and also very conveniently that it also supports Serde serialize and Serde deserialize. So what this really means is that you can actually use this as like your request body model, or like your response model when you're working with something as like Axum. So if I open Axum RS here, and I go for into response, let's just say, so here you can see that or do I need to have a look into this? But if you look into the very a lot of parts here, so here you can see that we have a lot of into response part. Then it would have into response, but I honestly don't remember which part that it says that this thing. Oh wait, do I have? So if I remember correctly, that Serde is actually supported in Axum. So whenever you are trying to to respond to or trying to respond from Axum back to the client, so this into response guy here actually does accept you putting whatever struct that implements serialize. So which means that in this case you can actually just plug in this entire data here, and then you can just send it back to the client without worrying about do I have to parse it again. So if we have to analyze this really closely, you can see that we have a blocks here as option. So the reason why it is an option is if you normally just do like a find query, these entire options were going to be none, obviously, unless that you do like a sort of like an inner join, or like an include, or like a select, then this guy will going to be populated with some data in it. But but sorry, I might go out of scope here, but I hope that you get something, something new today. Okay, so with this new user, let's just go to print it, because it does support debug printing. Okay, so with that out of the way, okay, so it is currently screaming at us some error. I'm trying to parse, find. Wait, how do I actually do this? Oh damn! I honestly, wait, hold on. Why does this not working? Do I have to do it as like a new user like this, and then put it here? Oh, okay. Well, struct literal. Oh yeah. Well, this is why Rust is the best, because it actually reminds me. It actually reminds what you're forgetting about. New user. Will this ever gonna work? I don't. Oh, okay. So okay. Data does not implement display, so you can go for this, or you can go for this. Okay. So I might have to do that. And new user. I'm sorry for taking that much time. All right. So I'm going to run this application. Cargo run. Wait for it for a while, and then it will create for us. All right. So there we go. You have an ID, you have a username, you have email, you have some secret, role of user, because it is by default. All right, so here I'm going to teach you about something about the set param. But if I go into the user guy here, there you go. You can see that we have a new role here, the ID. The username, email, password, role, create ad, update ad, everything works for you. So cool. But now, so instead of actually using this app for viewing our viewing our database, since Prisma does support the Prisma Studio, which is like a database viewer on your web browser. So here you can go for well, for whatever reason, Cargo Prisma Studio, currently this does not work. It will throw out some error, so you can see that it will throw out some error. So currently, in order to make this work, you actually need to have Node. You still need to have Node installed. Sorry about that. So you still need to have npx Prisma Studio here, and then if you haven't installed this on your machine, then it might prompt you to install Prisma, and then of course I will go and install that. So wait for it for a while until it opens up Studio, and there you go. You have one user, and then there you go. You have that. And what's interesting is that here, this is actually an enum you can pick from here. But let's just delete this, because we don't need this. Okay, so now with the vec param, then how should I? Okay, so how should I just use the vec here, and what is actually set param? What is this set param here? So if you press on set param, you can see that there is a lot of things, such as set ID, set username, set password, set roles, connect blocks, and all sorts of those things. But if you go into the docs in here, you can see that writing data, you can if you go for updating queries, then the author already shows you some examples, and so this is how you create a set param. So it will going to be this would be the database table name, the field, and then a set function. So this set function will actually returns back for us a set param, but here in this case, if you call .set, then it would return something called as like a set param, but it is post double colon set param, and here in this case it is asking for a user set param, in which means is that you can only use queries that are starting with the user table. And here it suggests that you should import create Prisma user. I might enter that, and then I might want to change the role. So I also have Prisma client create Prisma. Wait, what? I mean, I thought I've imported that. It seems like it didn't import my user, but for whatever reason. There you go. And then I would go for role. I would go for set there, and then here you can see that fn set, and it takes in an enum. This is an enum that we have already defined. And so if I go into this set function here, you can actually see that there is actually a role enum at the bottom of our file, and it is already initialized with two fields that are user and admin, and also it also does have a rename. And conveniently, this author also write code that generates for us a toString function, so then you can convert your role into a string, of course. So now for this case, I can go for something as I might need to import role, in which for a reason it does not. Okay, and then admin. Cool. So now with this, if I create a new user with this, I will going to get admin. And also this is pretty much the same with other types. So there are two types that you need to have a look at. There is a set param, which is you call the set function, set function returns set param. So if it is something like user dot and then something like this, you would get a user set param, something like this. I hope you get the idea. Okay, so well, let's just say that I want to I need to change it a little bit. That is, I want these to be unique. This also to be unique. Password can be whatever. Title might be unique, which is okay. Alright, so now if I execute this again, you should see that our role has been switched to admin. So wait, but since I've changed this model, I would need to go for cargo prisma generate again, and then it generates again, but then it only changes some field, and then if you insert this into the database with the same username and same email, then it will pretty much just throws an error. But since Rust does not throw an error, it will actually just pretty much just propagate the error up to this enum guy, so that you can handle it from here. So now with this, I'm going to run cargo run, wait for a while, and then there you go. You have a new ID, a username, email, secret, and then you can see the role admin. So so this set here is actually used in order to in order to set fields that already have a default value associated to it, or you can set other things, such as you can actually just create another block from this vec guy alone here. But if I'm going to try run this again, it would throw out an error, I think. Well, it does not throw an error, surprisingly. If I go to my Prisma Studio, Wait, hold on. Oh yeah, because I shut that down. I would need to create a separate terminal in order to run it. So I npx Prisma Studio. Wait, what? Wait, why do I have to? Okay, so cool. It seems like for whatever reason I created two of the same users again. I honestly don't know. I will have to test this again if I have time. What else? Wait, hold on. Oh yeah, I honestly forgot. I have to. So first I can generate, and then I need to push it again. Cargo Prisma. Well, first I'm going to do a generate again, just for sure, and then I'm going to do a db push, so that it pushes this. What this mean? Title block will be added. And there on the yeah. Just nuke the entire database. I don't care. It's not sort of like production database anyway. So okay, so let's just add our user here. Okay, there you go. So you can now have admin, and then well I can create it again, and then it will fail. There you go. So it gives me back an error of query execute error is panic, known error, and in fact it says unique constraint failed on field username. Cool. So how do we deal with this sort of error? So here, if you go to the docs, and then you can go for the error handling, and there you go. So here the author already states that there are three things within the error of Prisma, that is execute and serialize and deserialize. If I remember correctly, these two will pretty much just fail. Will pretty much just crash the entire application if I remember. Well, I might have to double check. So if I go to query error, then you can see that there's serialize and deserialize, these two errors. And so here we have is Prisma error, and then you can pass in this user facing error, and then with other sort of error. So here you can see that we have if the error is sort of like is Prisma error, and then if the error is as known, and then we would do something with the known error, or else we're not going to do anything. Or is Prisma error, we're going to be returning a boolean, because of course the naming convention is with the is right here. So cool. So here in this case, in order to handle such error like this, well, I might have to do sort of like a very gradual error handling strategy here. What sort of strategy that I'm thinking of? Wait, let me think for a while. Well, maybe I can pretty much just go for. Well, I'm not going to do something too complex here. So here in this case, as I could tell, this guy does support. If I remember correctly, this guy does support a toString. So I can do a toString on this, in which I can go for a dot map error. And then what is the thing under here? It is of type query error. Well, I can now just do a toString, and then things will fail, of course. Now I can return back a string. I don't need this guy right now. All right, so if I go for localhost 5555. Currently I have our model here. Let's just do it again. Cargo run. All right, so there you go. So normally on proper on proper code, such as working with like an actual backend, then you should do some better error handling than this. But this is pretty much just for demonstration purposes. Then here you can see that, okay, so it does throw out an error. It says that error executing query P2002 unique constraint failed on field username. So this is because we are trying to add another user with the same username, and that fails. And what is lovely about this library is that since handling error is actually really easy with Rust, so you should have a very good and a very pleasant time handling these errors exactly like the way you want. So you don't have to do something comparing to Prisma TypeScript, that you have to do a try catch. If you're using something like Express, then you would have to do a try catch in order to catch the error on point. Or if you're using or maybe if you're using Express, then there is going to be an error handler middleware, sort of like it sits in the back so that you can catch that error, but then it is pretty much not type safe at all. And if you compare this to Nest.js, then you would have to define this sort of error in the exception filter. But I mean, at least Nest.js is better because you can create nested error exception filters, so that you can sort of like you create like a Prisma module, and then you can create like a Prisma service, and with that Prisma service, if there is some sort of error that happens, you can create sort of like an error filter within the Prisma module in order to catch Prisma errors, such as things like this, so that every time your client encounters something that is sort of like an error coming from Prisma, you can easily convert it into something readable. But here we're using Rust, so when it comes to doing error handling, I think in Rust it is really convenient. Let's just see. Okay, so that is about creating models. So this is just for you to see that it is absolutely fine to just pretty much just feel free to sort of like make any errors. If you handle your error correctly, then nothing could be impossible. But if you look at this sort of instruction here, you can see that this create might fail. So you can do a match user here, that that if it throws sort of like if it throws a unique key violation, you can use the is Prisma error with this type here in order to log something out. So here in this case, the author is currently using a match statement for easy to handle. But I think I'll try this. I might have to do it again. So I might want to do some proper error handling here. So now I'm imagining that I want to handle this guy somehow. So with this case, we are currently catching the query error. So how do we actually return this rather than I honestly don't know, because I still want it to print as a string. Maybe, just maybe I can go for well maybe I can just how do I just print on air. Well, I think I don't want to care about that for now. Maybe just using a string is still easier to visualize. Okay, so let's just move on. Well, sorry for taking that much time. Okay, so let's just move on to finding stuff. Well, I mean, of course, let's just add another user to our mix. I'm going to set this as user like this, and then I'm going to do a cargo run again, and then now it pretty much just works. Okay, cool. So now I want to show you something about this vec guy here. That is, you can actually create inner you can actually create a block right within the query that is currently creating a new user. So you can go for something like this. So since this guy is a set param, right? So it should be whatever starting with a user and then with a set, and I could go for user, and then here I can have a lot of options. If I can actually do if I go for the schema Prisma again, I can go for the blocks here. So I can go for blocks. There it is, and then does it have a set function? And here you can see it does have a set function, and here you can see that, okay, so now we have a vec of unique params. And so what does this mean? Well, if I wait, hold on, what does this return? This returns back for us a user of set param. Wait, hold on. Does this actually, can I actually create an inner something here? Oh, okay, so I do have to need to connect. Oh, okay, so you cannot create another block within this new user, but you can set a specific block, specific field on the blocks within this query here. But since currently I don't have a block right now, so I'm just going to delete this. What is this unit type doing here? Okay, so let's just hold on. So if I go for Prisma Studio, refresh, now we have two users, which is really nice. And now let's just demonstrate something about finding. And so okay, so cool. What we all need to do is you only need to replace this section to a find many. So here you can see there are a lot of options, but the main options that you should have a look at is the find many here. Find many here will return for you a vec. Find first will returns back for you an option, and find unique here also returns back for you an option, but the parameter here actually takes in a unique where param. And this unique web param here is pretty much just you adding your user ID, because that's pretty much just the most unique thing that you can have. Well, you can also search by username as well. So here let's just go for a find many, and here you can see that if I wait, hold on, why does this does not work? Okay, so if I hover over to this find many here, you can see that it takes in a where param. And so I will demonstrate the where param in a bit. So now in order to find everything, then you would just pass in an empty vec. I have to delete this. Okay, so you can pass in an empty vec, and then I can go for users. And now if I print this, if I go run this, and then the result that we're going to expect is that we're going to have these two users, 1 and 2. Cool. Okay, so let's just move on to finding something specific. Okay, so in order to create a where param, so here you can see that there is this where param here, and this where param here is actually user where param. And if you click on this where param, and then you can see there are a lot of things here. But but the same concept applies to the set param. That is, the where param here is well, first off, it's a param. It starts from the create Prisma user, and it does not import. Now it imports. Okay, so now I can go for ID. I can go search for ID, or I can go search for email, and then I can go search for equal. So this is equal, but there are a lot of functions that are built within this guy. But since it is currently within a macro, I don't get any suggestions here. Everything is forbidden. So I mean, so do bear in mind that you have a lot of options. Okay, but in order to show that, I had to escape from macro. I can go for user, and then I can now have a lot of things. I can go for ID, and then I can go for, there are a lot of things. That is, you can have contains, ends with, equals, greater than, equal, in vec, mode, not in vec, order, set, starts with. Oh, okay, so contains, ends with, and starts with are string functions. And there are not in vec here is pretty much just if you are searching within within the blocks array of the user, then you can go for the in vec or not in vec. So these two will pretty much returns back for you a where param, so that you can plug it in whatever whatever find function that you currently takes. So in order to help you understand this, is that if we go out here, we go for the create queries, and here you can see that with the create queries, you can add in fields like this, and then this guy actually takes in a set, takes in a vector of set param, and as I have already told you that in order to get post set param, then you would have the first guy as post, and then the second guy here is going to be a set function, and this will returns you a set param. You can also connect relations by doing a create here, but then you would provide it in some field here. And there's also create uncheck for some cases, but I don't think that you might need create unchecked for the reason being. Okay, so the vector within the create function is going to set param, and then if you go for the find queries, the vec here for all of the find function will be where param. Here in this case, we're going to get a where param within this find main function. And so here I want to search for something equal. Let's just say for a@a.com. Since it is a string, we need to convert it as dot into. And so now we are currently having a proper find main query now. Let's just run it. Alright, so now you can see that we have an array, or we have a vec, and then we have one data here, which is containing our data. Alright, so cool. So in order to alright, so I'm going to add something extra when it comes to doing this find menu. You might seeing that, okay, so I only want some fields here. I only want the ID, username, and then I want to discard these two again altogether, because it's not really relevant when it comes to searching for user. Well, then it is within the docs. You can go read it here, that it is within the select and include. But I'm going to demo it very fast here. That is between the before the exec function, you would have something as called a select. So there are two things when it comes to filtering fields here. That is you can have a dot include, and what this dot include here is that it will pretty much just keeps everything in the data field. But if you want to to propagate or to populate the blocks, you would have to write in an include block. So I can go for it right now. So I can go for include, and then here in the include you can go for user include, and then here you can go for a blocks like this. You can press save, and forward. It is screaming at this because it needs to live within an object block, and then there you go. And now if I run it, you shall see that the blocks is pretty much just it's pretty much just none, but then it is empty. Here you can see that it is empty, but here you can actually see that there's no comments here because here in the include here in the include it actually just populates whatever the field that you want to populate, and pretty much the other sort of field are going to be discarded. And so you might wonder, okay, so how do I so what happened if this entire object is empty? So if I remove this entire object is empty, and it says that, well, you should at least provide something. Okay, so you might want, okay, so how do I just only take in certain fields that I want? And so this is where the select comes into play. You have a select, and then it should be a user select, and then you put it in an object. And so here what I want to have is I want to have an ID, and then I will have to want an username, and then email, and then create maybe the role, and then created at, updated at, and I guess that's pretty much about it. But however, the reason why I am I will always recommend you to use the select here is that this guy also does the functionality of the include as well. What I mean is that you can actually add in the blocks here, and it will pretty much just works exactly the same like if you would include blocks. And so if I save this, and then it pretty much just there's no error here. Right, so cool. You don't have to space it down like this. You can actually just remove it like this. You can have all of it in on one line. Like this. You can all have it in one line, which is then it should be convenient for you. So now if I run our example, then it pretty much just goes out the same. But do notice that if you use include, then this block will going to be at the bottom. But if you use select, then it will going to be adhering to the same structure that you have defined. So okay, so you might well, I mean, for each query, do I have to retype this all over again? And the answer is no. If you go into the docs, you can see that there's this select include, and if you go for a little bit down here, you can see that there is an example that you can create a new variable called post only title, and then it pretty much just only have the title. So in this case, you can actually create something that is globally available for you to select. That is, you can call for a user select, and then you can go for user select like this. So this means that you're pretty much creating a sort of like a select model here that is called user select, and then it will going to be whatever things that we have down there. So now in order to use this, you can pretty much just go for delete this, user select, and then select like this, and then you can use it all over again. And so okay, you may want so then if I comment this out, then this guy is going to be of type user data, and if I go for here user data like this, so this is the correct type, or maybe it is currently having some problem. Oh yeah, because it has to be a vec, of course. So it is of type of vec user data. Okay, so what if we so you can see that this user data is actually everything that it is from ID, username, username, email, password, things like that. Okay, so so what if I include this select, and then you might go into some error here that it says that Prisma user data, which is of this guy over here, this is Prisma user data, and then it goes in, Prisma user data. Prisma user data is not as same as create main closure 0 user select, and here you can see that data of Prisma user data have similar names. So this Prisma user data, it has the same type as main closure user select data, and so these data guys is, it looks the same, but it's actually distinct types. The reason for this is that this guy is actually the filtered the filtered model. Meanwhile, this is sort of like the full model. So how can we deal with this? And conveniently, there is this user also provides us the type that represents what this query returns, and this is actually user select data, and then everything works. Okay, so now let's just cover about find first. So the difference between find first and then find mini is that it returns an option, right? So find first here is that it pretty much just takes in it also takes in the where param, but then here you can see that now the type is different because I'm trying to do something very wrong here. The reason for this is that after this question mark here, it actually returns us an option. Okay, so now I have to do an okay or else. If it is invalid, then I would want to print line some cannot find user like this, and then I can do another question mark again, and it's still erroring out because it is currently a vec, and I have to remove that. So now the code currently compiles. Wait, hold on, there's another error here. Explicitly converts from string. So what does this mean? Okay, or else? Well, I mean, what I actually thought. Oh, okay, so it is implicitly converting to a string, and since we do not support strings, we have to copy this again. Do I have to copy this again? To string. Maybe I should do this and then to string. There you go. This is much more cleaner. Oh wait, or not like that. Map error. To string. E does not implement. Oh yeah, because this is because I'm printing out the error. So I can go for cannot find user, maybe. Okay, cool. So now it converts back to a string, and then let's just replace this. Okay, cool. So well, I mean, I should have used anyhow for now, but I don't have that, and I just pretty much just installs this error for no reason. All right, so so with this, I can go search for it, and pretty much just expects that it returns back the same user. All right, so now we move on to the find unique. Here is that it does not take in a vec. It takes in a unique where param, and what does a unique where param means is that you can search by username, email, and ID. So with the unique where param, it will going to be something like this, because this email guy here and this equals guy here, it actually returns back for say t, but this t is actually unique where param. But if we go for a find first, then this guy pretty much still works, because wait, why? because this equal guy here, well, I mean, it returns a from unique param, but then it could also be converted into a where param behind the scenes. But here I might go for a find unique. I have to delete the vec like this, and then there you go. I mean, do expect that the result is going to be defined. We're going to be the same. Cool. So now let's move on to, let's just create like a new block. And I'm sorry that this video is getting too long, but I'm making this video sort of like just for the future me, in order to have a look back at it. All right, so cool. Let's just do, okay, so let's just scrap this off. I'm going for a let new block. Let's just say it equals to client dot block, and then dot create. And here you can see that now we so now you can see, okay, now we need a unique where param, but it is in the owner field. Okay, so you might know, okay, so this unique where param, okay, so it could be a block, and then block.id something, but this unique where param it's actually coming from the user unique param. So what this means is that you can provide in a user email equals to something, or user ID equals something, into this field. So I can do that now. So it should be user username equals like this. Cool. So now how about the title? Well, let's just go for blog 1 description, disk 1 dot into like this, dot into, so that I can convert into a string, and then params. So since you already know about params, wait, hold on, I think I don't need the question mark operator for whatever reason. I just need to print that out. Cool. So now this guy is a result. If I return this, what does this say? Could not implicitly convert to a string. Well, I mean, at this point I might just return the E directly like this. There you go. Or like E to string 1. Okay, E to string. Awesome. Okay, so now I've created like a new block, and then I have assigned it to one of the users. And so let's just go back to the Prisma schema file, and then let's just see if there's something that we can change. We populate the user the ID already. Okay, well, I mean, let's just lock this out. See what do we have here. Okay, so now I can go for cargo run. Alright, so now you can see that I've created successfully a new block, and then here you can have the user ID here, or like the owner ID here is a user ID, but then you can see that the owner has none, because that we haven't populated the owner yet. So this owner is pretty much just like sort of like a placeholder. So cool. Let's just take this title here because it's unique, and then we are going to find it again. We're going to do a find unique, in which I want a blog why doesn't it import? Does it import? No, it does not. There you go. My LSP is currently having some troubles there. So okay, find unique block, and then of title, and then equals to blog 1 into like this. Now I can sort of like find unique about it. Okay, but since I don't want to handle this option anymore, I pretty much just let it there. Okay, so Okay, so now if I exec this again, then you pretty much just expects that this data will return again. But now in order to to do something different, I will going to populate this. I'm going to create like a blog select, and then I'm going to go for blog select, and then ID title content created out of the data. Okay, cool. But I wanted the owner as well. So there we go. What does this content screams at? Cannot find content in blog. Oh yeah, because it has to be description. Okay, there you go. So this does not throws out an error. And what's really cool about this is that despite that it is a macro, the errors that it throws is pretty much just compile time error, which is really nice. I don't have to worry about the fact that if I write some macro in the wrong way, then it would fail at some point in the runtime, which is if that happens, then it would going to be really annoying. Okay, so now I have this block select, and then I can do a select dot select, and then block select like this. Now if I go find it, and then if I go find it, and then there you go, you can see that owner, data, ID, username, email, password, row, blog, comments, sort of things. All right, so a lot of good things there. But now you're having some problem. Okay, so I have populated this user, but then the password is there, the password, and then the blogs and the comments is there, which is not really a good thing, right? So normally you would do is well, I mean, you can't just plug in user select here. It's not going to work. If I go save it, and then you can see that this guy does not going to work. So the way that you can deal with this is that well, you have to deal with it. Try to deal with it in the manual way. So you would have to copy this entire object, go for the owner, and then paste this. And then I'm going to try to put down some spaces like this so that our model looks a bit nicer. But then currently it throws an error because it should be a select. It should have a select there, and so there you go. So it should have a select, and then all these fields. And if you were wondering, then there is actually it is pretty much just written in the docs. Well, if you mess around with Prisma for quite some time, then you would find a lot of things. So this select and include, and it seems like I don't see. Okay, so there you go. So here inside the include, inside the select, and you can have an include there. And so, or you can you can have an include outside, and you could have a select inside. But then well, of course you can do a double select. That is, you select this block, and then you have a block select, and then this block select also have an inner select that that governs how the owners should look like. So if I run that again, then you should see that our output will going to be looking a really lot cleaner. So there you can see that we have some, and then we have the data. So this is the block data, and then we have the owner, which is of data, and then you can see that it is going to be nested like this, because I'm trying to populate it because I do have this block here, and then it just do a nesting like this. Well, let's just remove that and then do it again, and you shall see that our output will going to be much more cleaner. There you can see that you have the ID, you have the owner, and then you can have all the fields that you want to look at, and you have the title description, and then the create data. Well, you can also add in some comments like this, and now it pretty much just gives us an empty array like this. Yeah. So I guess that is pretty much about the find and the create. Now let's just well, I'm not going. I think this video is going for quite a bit too long. I think at this point I'm not going to create any new comments, but I'm going to demonstrate about how you can update something. Well, the quicker about I think the quicker demo is trying to delete something off of the database. So I want to delete one user, then I can have let, or maybe I don't want to get back the old user. Client dot user dot delete, and then here by default this delete guy here expects a user of unique param. So this pretty much just takes in, if you want to do user ID equal user email equal or user username equal. I'm just going to take in user username equals, and then I want this user to be gone. Cool. You can wait, hold on, why is it okay? Nice. Okay, cool. So what yeah, it says yeah, it should I should convert it into a string. Map error e to string. Awesome. Okay, so now we don't have something, but funny enough, you can actually see the deleted user here, because this function does return back for you the deleted user. And also, since it returns back for you a deleted user, you can actually filter on it. You can do a select, and then user select, and then select like this. And then now if I do a cargo on, then you should see that it deletes successfully. And also you can see its output. But then if we navigate back to if we navigate back to our Prisma Studio, then we only have this one guy. But here's the thing. The really good thing about Prisma Studio is that it also shows you what sort of relationship that you're currently having. So it is currently relating to a block, that is a block 1, a description 1. Okay, so how do I try to update whatever field that is in this user? Well, I'm going to demonstrate how you can update the user now. So it is pretty much just you can pretty much just replaces this delete into a delete or as an update. Yeah. So there you go. You have an update, and here it takes in 2 parameters. That is, well, I will have to delete these 2 unless I want to show you something. Okay, so if I click on this update, then you can see that since this is client user, this update here expects a user of unique param, which you can search by username, email, and ID. And then we have a set param, which is also a user of set param, and as I already stated that in order to create such set param, then you would have this first user, and then whatever things that goes in the middle, and then the set function, which generates for you a set param. Okay, so cool. So with update, I want to update the current username. That is, I want to go find the user username equals to this guy into. There you go. And then now I'm going to provide a vector of set param, and so I'm going to populate to use it as a vec, and then and so here you can see that my bot is trying to help me out, but this isn't the correct answer to it, so I'm not going to accept it. So let's just say that I want to change the username to something different, such as username to set, and then I can go for this guy again, and I can also go for another field as user roles set, and then I can set for role of I need to import this role of maybe normal user, because I want it to be a normal user. I can also set for the password as well, so I can go for set and then secret2 or secret1, whatever, into like this, and then there is our query, and so after updating, then you can you can do a select so that you can filter all of those fields, and then well however you can actually create a separate variable for this. It is called let filters or like let changes like this, and then they're going to be of type vec of where param of type user where param equals to vec, and then I can pretty much just get the entire thing here. There you go, and then I can pretty much just replace this with changes. So now the code looks really clean now. Okay, user where param. Okay, so now what are these errors? Prisma user where param set. Oh yeah, it has to be a set param. Sorry, set param of user. Cool. So now you can see that you can so the purpose of this is that you can actually do like sort of like you can have all of the updates within your update request model if you're working with sort of like a REST API, and then you can check certain fields like which field are changed, which field are the same, and then for each of the field that are changed, you would push the change into the changes vector, and then you can put it here, so that you can pretty much just control that what field should update, what field should change or like should update prior to the old model. So this is pretty much just for minimizing minimizing update calls. So cool. If I go update this, if I go for the update, well, it's going to scream at me for some reason. Okay, so now you can see that, okay, so I still have a block, and well, because I populated that block, but now you can see that our username has changed, our email has changed, but I didn't see the password because of course I filtered it out. If I go into see it in here, do a refresh, and then you can see secret one here. The user role is changed. It changed from admin to a user. And so I think that is pretty much about it. Oh yeah, you can also you don't have to if you haven't remembered correctly, that you can still update other models as well. Well, if I can remember correctly, well, let's just do something. User blogs, I need to have this, and then set, and then it takes in a unique where param of blogs, and so let's just I'm just going to find blog. Oh yeah, it has to be a vec, so it's going to be a vec of blog, and then it's going to be a title. Wait, hold on. Set takes in a unique where param. So okay, so it takes in a unique where param in which I can go for equals for blog1.into. Then I don't know why it is here though. Not going to lie, I honestly don't know why. So it takes in this set. It takes in set blocks, and it takes in a params of unique where params. So it is. I honestly don't know why this is here, though. Well, oh yeah. I don't know how this will work. Let's just go for block 3. Because I don't know what it will do. Okay, so because it depends on one or more records that are required, but then record to update was not found. Okay, so yeah, but let's just do a block one maybe. I honestly don't know. but then what will change? It depends on more records that are required, but then no user records was found. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So it only uses for many relationship. Oh yeah. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so that is about so we have already covered about update. We have covered about filtering out data. We have already covered about setting up Prisma. And also we have covered about deleting data, and also how you can use Prisma Studio at your advantage, so that you can view your model better. And also the last note is that the reason why I do like to use this Docker Compose here, because I can pretty much just restart the database whenever I want, and it pretty much just a non-issue. So for whatever changes that you have submitted to your schema.prisma file, you should do a cargo Prisma generate, and then you should do a push. Whenever you are done and you want to deploy, then or more like you want to put it into the dev migration, then there is a command for that is called cargo Prisma migrate dev. So this now it will create all data will be lost. Yes, just enter new first. There you go. Now our changes are in sync. So now what it does is that it creates a new migration. It generates the timestamp, and then there you go. There is your migration.SQL file, and there you can see we have create enum, and then create user table, create table, all these fields, and then it creates some index, some unique index, so that the database can gives you an error whenever some field constraints are thrown. So I have to say that I'm sorry for making this super long video. I honestly don't know whoever might want to watch this, but if you're watching this and you have reached to this point, then I honestly have to say to you that you are honestly someone that has a lot of time spent. But as always, I really appreciate that you spent your time watching my video. So normally videos on my personal channel are pretty much just programming stuff, and then this is where I track everything that I have had done in the past, so that whenever if I forget something, then I can really rewatch my video in order to understand my old concepts about what I have done in the past. Well, I mean, that's it for this video. I really hope that you would learn something, and I really expect that you would try to give this library a try. It's a really lovely library. I like to use it with Axum a lot. And yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Well, if I ever have time to make another video about this. Alright, so bye bye. Maybe in the future I might make another video that covers about how you can use Swagger Utoipa crate in order to generate the OpenAPI Swagger for your Axum backend. I think that we're going to be in some video in the future if I have time. Alright, so thank you for watching, and bye bye. Peace.